Hi, welcome to D&D Body Shop. Glad you could join us today to learn about the history of this building and the building that used to be here over 140 years ago. Let me tell you about the first building. Henry Kynette, a wagon maker and wheelwright, arrived in Lisbon from Pennsylvania in 1863. He developed a cultivator with a seat and was granted a patent for that machine in 1867. Henry thought his new invention would be helpful to farmers who plowed their fields behind a horse-pulled walking cultivator. In 1870, several local residents joined Kynette in this business venture, establishing the Lisbon Manufacturing Company, also known as Lisbon Agricultural Works. They constructed a two-story brick building on this spot. The wooden parts were made here. Local blacksmith Theodore Kenderdine made the metal fittings, and the hubs were made in Cedar Rapids. The finished product was a one-row unit equipped with 4 shovels and sold for $25. The business struggled, and 4 years later the investors withdrew and the company reorganized, with Henry Kynette serving as plant superintendent and new investors playing key roles in the business. In addition, the company began to manufacture agricultural implements and a corn planter. In 1875, a fire destroyed most of the building and its contents, including 170 finished cultivators. Mr. Kynette rebuilt a smaller building on the same site and continued to make his cultivators, but also added a line of buggies, sleighs, and agricultural implements. The company continued to struggle, and a year later was only doing general repairs on agricultural equipment and selling used farm equipment. Business was so bad by the following year that the second group of investors decided to sell the business and the real estate that included this land and the land next door. That included a blacksmith shop and the Lisbon Manufacturing Company without consulting Mr. Kynette. When Mr. Kynette heard about the liquidation of the business, he reached out to his brother, Dr. Alpha Kynette, for help. Dr. Kynette showed up in Lisbon on the day of the sale and purchased the real estate and the company. Dr. Kynette insisted that the second group of investors remain to manage the day-to-day operations of the company. The business closed for good in 1885, coming to terms with the fact that farmers were not willing to change the way they labored in their fields. Kynette's invention was probably ahead of its time. Local resident Samuel Kurtz purchased the building in 1896 and used it as a lumber company until 1915. In subsequent years, 2 other lumber companies, Stewart Lumber Company and C.W. Chapman Lumber Company, operated out of this building. The Lincoln Highway, the nation's first transcontinental highway that ran from New York City to San Francisco, was designated in 1914 and ran down Main Street in Lisbon. About the same time, more and more people began to buy automobiles, which spurred the growth of businesses such as garages and gas stations. This type of business was commonly referred to as a garage, a place where cars came to be sold or repaired. New cars were parked in the front section, assembly was done in the middle, and the rear was used for mechanical work. Note the wide open spaces, high ceilings, and large doors. This sliding door is over 100 years old and is still functional. Much of the current building remains from 1918, including windows, a front facade, and a sign holder. George Albright, who built many homes, barns, and buildings in the area, purchased the property in 1918, and the properties remained in his possession or the possession of his family since. He demolished the lumber company building and constructed this brick building the following year. Some of the businesses that operated out of the building between 1918 and 1959 included Peterson Implement Company, J.I. Case Farm Implement and Tractors, Massey Harris Implement, Sandrick Motor Company in 1926, C.H. Don Chrysler Plymouth in 1933, and Moeller Motor Company, the last new car dealership to do business in Lisbon. Customers could also purchase gasoline from pumps in front of the building. Dave Albright, grandson of George, started D&D Body Shop in this building in 1959, renting the space until purchasing the property in 1970. The D&D stands for Dave Albright and Don Smith, who operated a body shop business together for a couple years. After that time, the business was solely owned and operated by Dave Albright for nearly 60 years. In 1959, the hourly labor rate was $3 and a pint of paint cost $2.50. By comparison, today a pint of paint costs in the $100 range. In January of 2019, Dave's son Dan took over the business, which continues to operate as D&D Body Shop. I hope you enjoyed our walk through the history of D&D and its predecessor, the Lisbon Manufacturing Company. Like all the buildings in our downtown district, this place matters.